Okay, welcome everybody. We are at Monkbar, one of the four main gateways to city walls, and personally my favourite. I'm fortunate to have managed to collar Kev Cocaine here from the York Archaeological Trust.
Hello.
And we're going to just take a few minutes to go spin around, show you the interior, and give you the whole York Unlocked experience of Monkbar. So thanks Kev for agreeing to volunteer to kind of show us around. You lead the way. We're going in an entrance that most of the visitors might not recognise.
So this is the way that kind of staff or tenants in the building access it today. We have come straight off the city walls, so the city walls are just behind us. We're coming straight into it. The only other exit out of Monkbar is through the city walls on the other side of the building, which will be the main entrance this weekend during York Unlocked.
So that's the sort of narrow stairway, so people are probably a bit more familiar if they've been up on the walls or kind of coming through that way.
Yeah, absolutely. And the walkway is designed initially as part of the gatehouse. Today, we don't use it to access the city walls, but it would be used it was designed originally to get purely into this building for people working in the walls when York used to operate a curfew before 1700. You might think there's a watching the ward of the city who were working in this building. Most of the custodians of the walls and security of the city of York. To help them with their curfew, with their security, the gatehouses, including Monkbar, were equipped with the Portcullis.
Yeah.
We can see the sort of winching mechanism for the Portcullis here, which is attached to the wall. We've got this lovely winch wheel. The Portcullis itself, the woodwork, the mechanism, may have been replaced about 300 years ago.
Yeah.
But it is the only complete Portcullis working system that exists on a gatehouse anywhere in Europe, as far as I know. I've been to look at quite a lot of them. In York, all the three surviving gatehouses, the four surviving gatehouses, including Monkbar, have got parts of the Portcullis, but not this mechanism that can be used to operate it.
So this is the most complete, if you like, example that we've got in York.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But this isn't the same as city gates, is it? How does this kind of work then? So we've got outer gates and then we've got a portcullis.
So you can see it best at Warmgate Bar today, but on York City walls there were 5 gatehouses originally. One of them was bricked up in the 1490s after a peasants' revolt.
Oh yeah.
Gate. But the 4 surviving gatehouses, Bootham, Micklegate, Warmgate and Monkbar, they had a barbican, a sort of stone corridor that jutted out in the front of the building. As I say, it still exists at Warmgate, but not at the others. And at the end of that barbican was a large, sort of 15-foot high double gate. At the back of the barbican, under the gatehouse, was another gate of the same dimensions, and in between them was a portcullis that you could drop. So there would be 3 doors or gates that could be opened and closed every day. Back in the medieval period, they would do that every evening and every morning. They would lock them at night, they'd operate a curfew, normally between 9 PM and 4 AM, but sort of during daylight hours throughout the year. And then they would open them again at dawn.
So, thank you. There's obviously a lot of talk these days about borders in the news. Really, we're talking about the sort of city's borders, aren't we? Really, of kind of controlling access, who can come in, who can't, and presumably it allows you to see who's approaching as well before you decide whether they're going to come in or not.
Absolutely. So today, York City Council is interested in electric buses, in Wi-Fi around the city. 600 years ago, York City Corporation was interested in city walls, the management of livestock and rules to regulate livestock that people might have in and around the city walls and in the city. Times change.
Fantastic. So some people may be aware this was a museum until I think relatively recently, but it's had a range of uses over the kind of years. So can you give us a sense of, obviously other than just being a kind of defensive and kind of administrative gateway, what else has been kind of used for this space?
So when it was a gateway, throughout the city walls, many spaces here were used as prisons.
Right.
So behind you is a tower cell room. In there is a garderobe, a beautiful garderobe.
Can we go in?
Absolutely. It's like a medieval toilet. Just mind your head as you go through it.
People will notice that you call these spaces very narrow and small, aren't they?
Yeah, absolutely.
Have we grown, or is there something?
Within Monkbar, it's interesting. We've got this sort of piece of wood here that completes the door, so that the doorway is, roughly about my height, a little bit shorter than me. But sort of scientifically speaking, looking at the skeletons of people we found in the past, probably not. People were about the same size as they were now. What affects the height that someone grows to is the nutrition and the diet that they have access to. Depending on how wealthy you were, what your position or geography was in the past, you might suffer from bad nutrition. it's hard to say. In this very small space though, which is designed originally with the windows that look along the outside of the wall and to the front of the building for defence of the gatehouse.
But I definitely wouldn't have been glazed, would the
the glazing is 20th century as far as I'm aware. Yeah.
So pretty cold.
Absolutely very cold building. And of course most buildings, would just be timber, so they wouldn't just be cold, but they would have a lot of lice and insects in them. The majority of buildings, 600 years ago, they wouldn't have toilets and things like this lovely garderobe in front of you. This particular small cell.
So this is a toilet? This
is a toilet, yeah. There's two in Monkbar. None of the other gatehouses have them.
Right.
And Monkbar is the youngest of the gatehouses that was built. And therefore it's more technologically advanced than the others.
Without getting too kind of crude, what happens when it comes...
Oh, so it would have literally gone down into the moat. It would have been a moat.
There would have been a moat around it, okay. Yeah. So like Fishgate possible being there as well, and obviously just straight down into the water.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely.
Not very warm though for your bum, that you have to say, would you?
Well,
you don't want to get on with it, wouldn't you?
Not very warm anyway, yeah. Absolutely.
No, but okay, that's so. But you say this was partly a prison as well?
It was. So this small room with a toilet in it, this was a prison cell used for a couple of different people. The most famous was Alice Bowman, who was imprisoned here for 7 years as far as we know. She sort of disappears out of the records. And she would have been kept in here probably, for the last 7 years.
And do you know what the crime was, or the allegation was?
In Alice Bowman's case, it was a religious / political problem where she had offended the reigning government by being Catholic and refusing to sort of she wasn't compelled by the laws of the land at the time. So it's part of that kind of 15th, 16th century period where there is a lot of tension between the Church of England and Roman Catholics.
Yeah, we were in the Bar Convent a couple of years back on York Unlocked, so hearing some of them. Can we have a sort of further explore then?
Of course.
And Kev is even bigger than me, so you can see how he's struggling there to kind of get through these micro spaces, I think you'd have to call it.
Would you like to go first?
Thank you, yeah. So again, we've got a very narrow turning here.
So all the stairs in Monkbar are sort of inside the walls.
Yeah.
Between each floor, the stairs are either side. So if someone was attacking the building, they would have to cross an entire floor to get up to the next floor. So it's designed with defence in mind. But let's just say it's had many uses over the years. At the minute, you might be able to see it's a bit of a wreck on the top floor.
Yeah. We're keeping above that. So was it ever actually sort of successfully taken in any kind of raids? Obviously, we know that.
No. I mean, effectively, it was never. York was sieged a couple of times, but Monkbar was never taken by military action.
And am I right in thinking that this was kind of under Richard III, sort of back end of the 15th century? That was when the bulk of the improvement and modernisation happened on this part.
So when Richard III was sort of the reigning monarch in the country, he spent a lot of time in York.
Yeah.
He gave some money in 1484 to build up parts of the walls in this area. We think that this floor that we're in now, the roof might have been done then, the walls might have been extended to the height they are at now, and that perhaps before 1484 it was an open-topped, just sort of crenellated tower.
So much nicer for the officers, as you might say, for those that were in charge of the safety of the city. And
good for the kind of maintenance of the building long term. So, wherever that money came from, whenever the work was done, it sort of helped preserve the building for us today. And as you say, there have been many people who have been in it. It was used as a residence after the sort of city curfews ended in the mid-1700s. The last residents to live in here were coppers, police officers, before the sort of modern policing acts came into force in the early 1900s.
So police, I think Warngate was a police house as well, wasn't it?
It was, all four of the existing gatehouses were given to, so each police officer was responsible for a ward. So the police officer here was responsible for Monkbar. I don't know the name of the police officers. I don't know if they exist in the records. And they're sort of better recorded over at Micklegate Bar, where they were more than...
And that's the original sort of four wards of the city, isn't it? With the four strays and the four gates. That says, obviously, we now have wards that break those up into smaller bits and pieces, but the original wards of the city, weren't they? Were Monk, Wong, Micklegate, and Bootham.
Absolutely. So it's administrative in nature. Each sort of officer's got a jurisdiction. As modern policing came in, and as modern houses started to be built, of course, in the sort of early 1900s onwards, it was considered to be not fit for purpose as residents, but it has been held as a lease by many retailers. There is a a retailer whose name I don't know, who will be hopefully putting in here next year.
Awesome.
And as you say, it was used as a museum space from I think 1990 until 2019. It sort of stopped because of COVID, because of the confined spaces. You know, people are concerned about social distancing.
And that's the best way to keep old buildings healthy, isn't it? Is to use them and heat them, ventilate them, etc.
You know, as we say, this floor's seen better days, and it is just because it hasn't really been used for a couple of years. You know, I mean, particularly in this building, you know, I mean, the more kind of ventilation that's getting sort of through the windows and the doors and things, the better it is for the stone inside the building.
Can we have a peek through these doors then?
Yeah,
obviously, I appreciate there's probably a bit of clutter in here, but it just gives us. So what are we coming in?
So this goes out into a toilet. On the left, you can see access to the platform that would have been above the barbican.
Got you.
So that's what would be used to defend the gatehouse from.
Yep.
The spiral staircase that goes up to the roof.
Am I okay to just pop out here?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It's a very small space, but you're welcome to.
So I'm guessing those that are visiting on the day probably won't be able to do this.
No, I mean,
but this is a first for me as a tour guide of many years in the city. It's the first time I've been up here, so thank you for that. But I mean, it really gives you the good sight lines, doesn't it? So we're looking out towards the north and the east, I believe, in this direction.
Absolutely,
yeah. So yeah, it's fabulous, isn't it? And it's stood the test of time, hasn't it? You know, this building. I mean, its construction, it's.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. It's over 600 years old. You know, it's here for the longevity of time.
But again, a very, very petite entrance, and I'm able to just finish off by going up to the.
Yeah,
the top level.
The door at the top should be.
So just to give you a sense there, that door is about 3 foot in height.
Yeah, I mean, it's always intended for access rather than comfort.
So here we go, coming up right up to the top. Pretty. Put that to one side. Going to me, this really is an absolute delight. Here's a building you might recognise. We're about to step on.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine.
So how's that for a view of the Minster? So right, Kev, just come up. We're going to thank him for his time today, giving us this fabulous glimpse into a key part of York's history and hopefully part of its future as well, in terms of finding a new use for this building. But what a view we have from up here. That is absolutely fabulous. Beautiful weather. So I do hope you're enjoying York Unlocked. So from Monkbar, from me, John, and from Kev, thank you and goodbye.